Up until now, we've been focused on the price elasticity of demand. There are actually several different types of elasticity. In this class, we're just going to focus on price elasticity, but before we wrap up, we need to think about how that applies to supply. The price elasticity of supply measures how flexible producers are to changes in price. So here we're measuring how production or the quantity supplied changes in response to a change in the price of a product. And you'll see that the price elasticity of supply is calculated in the same way as the price elasticity of demand, and its interpretation is also the same. So you've already done the bulk of the heavy lifting for this module. We'll just go over supply elasticities before we wrap up. So you can see here that the price elasticity of supply is also calculated using percent change in quantity over percent change in price. The difference here is using the quantities supplied rather than the quantity demanded. And you can also use the slope formula. Of course, the difference, again, is that instead of using the slope of the demand curve here, you use the slope of the supply curve. So we're really applying the same method for calculation to the supply as we are when we calculate the price elasticity of demand. We also interpret our elasticities in just the same way as with price elasticity of demand. However, the price elasticity of supply will always be positive. And that makes sense if you think about it, because supply is upward sloping. As price increases, quantity supplied also increases. So because the numerator and the denominator will have the same sign, the price elasticity of supply will always be positive. But we don't really care about whether it's positive or negative. We care about whether or not the numerator is bigger or smaller than the denominator. In other words, whether or not our fraction, our price elasticity, is bigger or smaller in magnitude than 1. When the elasticity is larger than 1, we say that supply is elastic, meaning that our numerator, our percent change in quantity, will be bigger than our percent change in price. And conceptually, that means that producers are very responsive to price changes. In response to the price change, they change their quantity supplied a lot. On the other hand, if supply is inelastic, then mathematically that means that the quantity supplied, the change in the quantity supplied is small relative to the change in price. In other words, producers are not very responsive to changes in price.